In a world where everyone is obsessed with filters and facades, what if the true key to becoming unforgettable lies not in perfection, but in embracing what we dare not show? What if the most magnetic force you could ever possess is your ability to be unapologetically real? We live in a time when we're constantly encouraged to present the perfect version of ourselves. Social media gives us endless opportunities to polish our images, to edit our lives, to seem flawless. Yet deep down, don't we all feel that something is missing? What if it's not about being perfect, but about being authentically you, Carl? Jung, a master of the human psyche, unlocked a profound truth: we don't desire what appears flawless. We are drawn to what feels real, the truth beneath the surface. The parts of us we hide, that is what truly captures the attention of others. And if you take a moment to think about it, the people you've been most drawn to in your life, what do they have in common? It's not their perfection or their flawless exterior. It's that they exude a kind of truth, an authenticity that makes them stand out. There's a paradox here that's so easy to miss. The 7 paradoxical traits that make a person unforgettable are not the ones that society tells us to chase. They aren't about crafting a perfect image or pretending to be someone you're not. They're about embracing the parts of ourselves we've been taught to hide, the things we suppress or silence because we fear judgment. But here's the catch: what you've been hiding might be exactly what makes you unforgettable. We spend so much time polishing the outside, our words, our appearance, our behavior, thinking this is where our power lies. But real power doesn't come from how we look on the outside. It's buried beneath all of that. It's in the quiet strength, the calm that doesn't require performing. It's the ability to be fully present, fully yourself without needing to impress anyone. It's not about being the loudest or the most outgoing. It's about being the person whose presence is felt even after they've left the room. It's the quiet force of someone who knows who they are and doesn't need anyone's approval to be powerful. Think of the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius didn't speak to impress, he spoke to understand himself. Epictetus didn't seek attention, he mastered his inner world. Their strength didn't come from performing or pleasing others. It came from a deep sense of self-awareness and inner peace. The real power lies in owning your truth so fully that you stop needing permission to show up in the world as your most authentic self. If you've ever felt like you're too much or not enough, like people overlook you, no matter how much you give, then this is the shift you've been waiting for. This message is going to flip the narrative. It's not about strategy, charm, or fitting into someone else's mold. It's about becoming so rooted in who you are that no one can replace your presence. No one can imitate the real you. So if this resonates with you, if it challenges you, if it makes you feel something deep inside, there's one thing I ask. Tap that subscribe button. That's how we keep growing this space together, with truth, with depth, and without filters. Let's dive in. Most of us don't even realize we're performing every day. It's not something we do just on stage or in front of a camera. It happens in our everyday lives. We wear masks to fit in, to avoid discomfort, to be liked. We edit our emotions much like we edit our photos, posting the smiles that mask the exhaustion underneath. We say I'm fine because it's easier than explaining the complexities of what's really going on inside. Over time, this becomes second nature. We've trained ourselves to perform, and after a while, we start to forget who we truly are underneath the act. We trade authenticity for approval. And here's the thing. After a while, the approval doesn't feel like enough. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." But how can you truly know yourself if you've spent years becoming who the world told you to be? This isn't just about social media or public life. It's about how we carry ourselves every day. It's about the way we suppress our opinions in conversations to avoid conflict, the way we water down our excitement so we don't come off as too much. We've been taught to shrink ourselves to fit into a mold that society finds comfortable. But the truth is, every person who ever changed the world was all of those things too loud, too different, too inconvenient. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who your parents expect you to be, not who your job needs you to be, not who your friends are most comfortable with. It's about you, the raw, unfiltered, evolving version of yourself. And that's where your true power lies. Not in the polished image, but in the truth beneath it." Jung's concept of individuation is all about integrating every part of ourselves, even the messy, difficult parts, to become whole. And let's be honest, wholeness is far more compelling than perfection. The people who leave the deepest impression on us aren't the ones who seem perfect. They're the ones who make us feel like it's okay not to have it all together. The ones who laugh without hesitation and cry without apology. These people don't stay with us because they were flawless. They stay because they were real. Realness in a world full of fakes is revolutionary. Socrates urged us to examine our lives, not just live them on autopilot. And part of that examination means asking the tough questions. Where am I pretending to be someone I'm not? Where am I suppressing my truth just to be accepted? If you sit with this question long enough, you'll find the cracks in your identity, the places where you've traded truth for comfort. These are the places that need your attention, not your judgment, because that's where your masks are hiding. When you peel off the masks, you'll start to feel something wild and unfamiliar freedom. The freedom that comes from being unapologetically yourself. And here's the best part. The people who are meant for you will be drawn to this real version of you, the ones who can't handle your truth. They'll fall away quietly without drama. Let them go. You were never meant to be a watered-down version of yourself. You were meant to be whole, fully expressed, and at peace with your contradictions. The right people will see you, love you, and appreciate you for exactly who you are. As you reflect on this, ask yourself, are there parts of you that you've been hiding, thinking they make you less? What if those parts are the very things that make you unforgettable? The things you've been ashamed of could be the things that set you apart. They might be the very thing that someone else needs to hear in order to feel less alone. Let's continue with what it means to embrace our flaws and truly own who we are. The truth is, we've been sold the illusion that to be loved, respected, or remembered, we have to be flawless. That we need to erase our past mistakes, polish up every rough edge, and present this perfect version of ourselves. But here's the truth no one wants to tell you. Perfection doesn't connect people. Pain does. Struggle does. Humanity does. People don't bond over how perfect your life looks on the outside. They bond over the moments when you've been knocked down and you still chose to rise. It's in those moments of vulnerability, the rawness of being human, that connection happens. Aristotle said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." But real self-knowledge doesn't come from only looking at your strengths. It comes from looking at your shadows, acknowledging the parts of you that didn't always have it together, the mistakes, the failures, the things that made you feel unlovable or broken. The most powerful thing you can do is own those parts. Look at your flaws, your struggles, and say, "That's mine, and I'm not ashamed of it." Shame only holds power over you when you try to hide the parts of you that feel uncomfortable. When you bring them into the light, they lose their grip, and you start to take your power back. As Carl Jung put it, what you resist persists. What you accept transforms. The parts of you that you've been tucking away, the things you think make you too emotional, too complicated, too broken, that's where your true power lies. The very thing you've been hiding could be what sets you apart and makes you unforgettable. It could be the thing that helps someone else feel seen, heard, or understood. So stop burying it. Own your flaws, because in those flaws lies your uniqueness. We all have scars, emotional, mental, maybe even physical. And while society has been trying to sell us cover-ups for years, cover up your pain, cover up your past, cover up your vulnerability, those scars are not signs of weakness. They're proof that you've healed, proof that you've felt deeply, fought through something and didn't give up. That resilience is what makes you magnetic. People don't remember the ones who never cracked. They remember the ones who cracked but didn't collapse. The Stoics knew this truth. Epictetus taught that it's not about what happens to you, but about how you respond. Your mistakes, your failures, they don't define who you are. Your response to them does. And that's your character, your story. And let's face it, stories move people. But people aren't moved by stories where everything goes perfectly. They're moved by stories where the protagonist faces the fire, keeps going, and somehow emerges stronger. That's where your power lies. Think about Socrates, he said, "Be as you wish to seem." Not perfect, not pristine, just real, because people aren't looking for idols. They're looking for someone who makes them feel less alone. And when you show up with all your flaws and humanity, people can connect with you in a way they never could with someone who's pretending to be untouchable. So let's ask ourselves, what's one part of your story you've been hiding? What's one chapter of your life you've been afraid to share, thinking it would make people view you differently? What if that part of your story, instead of making you weak, is the thing that actually makes you unforgettable? Instead of hiding your struggles, you should own them. Say, yes, I've struggled. Yes, I've failed. And yes, I'm still here. That's not a confession. That's a declaration. It's you standing in your full humanity, refusing to shrink for anyone else's comfort. In a world full of filtered personalities, what we really need is realness. We need people who have been through it, who didn't let life turn them cold. We need people who still care deeply even after being hurt. People who show up fully even when it's scary. That's the kind of presence that sticks with you. That's the kind of energy that enters a room and makes people feel something. It's magnetic. And you don't need to apologize for your flaws, because they're what make you human. They're what make you real. So the next time you find yourself playing it safe, putting on a mask to make others feel comfortable, ask yourself, is this me? Or is this the version of me that others will accept? That one question can change everything. Because self-respect doesn't start with boundaries. It starts with honesty, with being honest with yourself first and foremost. And the most important honesty is the kind you owe yourself. At the end of the day, we're not remembered for being liked by everyone. We're remembered for being real with the few who mattered. Let your presence be something people feel, not just something they see. Let your authenticity speak louder than your appearance. Let your truth be the thing that makes you unforgettable. Let's talk about growth. It's one of those things everyone says they want, but not everyone understands what it truly looks like. Real growth isn't just about reading more books or hitting milestones. Real growth is about letting go of old versions of yourself without losing your soul in the process. It's choosing to evolve, not because you're chasing approval, but because you're aligning more and more with your true self. Some people confuse growth with performance. They shape-shift to fit in to meet others' expectations. But fitting in has never been the same as belonging. One is about changing your outfit to look like everyone else. The other is about changing your life. Plato once said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." That's the heart of real transformation. It's not about impressing others with how much you've changed. It's about looking in the mirror and knowing that every step forward is something you've chosen for yourself. The Stoics had this figured out long before we did. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself every day not to waste time arguing about what a good person should be. Instead, he focused on being one. No performance, just embodiment. For the Stoics, growth wasn't about achievements. It was about character. It was about becoming someone whose inner world wasn't ruled by outside noise. They were focused on the quiet power that comes from owning their truth, and from understanding that real growth happens from the inside out. And here's the thing. Evolving doesn't mean abandoning who you are. It means refining who you are. Like a phone that still looks like yours, but now runs faster, smoother, smarter. That's what personal growth looks like. You're not becoming someone new. You're removing the glitches, cleaning up the old programming, and unlocking features you didn't even know were there. The truth is, you've always had the potential. Growth just brings it to the surface. Carl Jung talked about individuation, the process of becoming whole. Part of that journey is shedding the parts of you that were built on fear, on pleasing others, and on avoiding discomfort. Not everything you picked up along the way was meant to stay. Some beliefs, habits, and identities served their purpose as survival tools, but now they might be holding you back. And when you recognize that, that's when you start to evolve consciously, not reactively. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because you finally understand something deeper about yourself. When you stop reacting to life and start living with intention, that's when you begin to truly grow. Choosing to grow doesn't mean rejecting who you are now. It's not about hating where you've come from or what you've been through. It's about loving yourself enough not to stay stagnant. It's about respecting the present moment so much that you refuse to let it be your limit. Socrates believed that the unexamined life wasn't worth living. And when you begin to examine your life, not with judgment, but with curiosity, you'll start to see the patterns. You'll notice where you've grown, where you're stuck, and where you've compromised your own values just to fit into spaces you never even wanted to be in. Awareness is power. Because you can't change what you're not willing to face. But once you see it clearly, you get your power back. You'll realize that you don't need permission to become the next version of yourself. You can simply start. And here's the thing, growth is messy. It's not always glamorous. Sometimes it's awkward, sometimes it's lonely, and sometimes it means saying goodbye to people who only like the older, quieter, more agreeable version of you. Let them go. You're not here to keep everyone comfortable. You're here to keep your soul awake. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Growth is the same. It's not a one-time leap or breakthrough. It's a daily decision. It's choosing reflection over reaction, discipline over impulse, courage over comfort. And you won't always get it right. But remember, the goal isn't perfection. It's progress. Real growth means you evolve into the kind of person who doesn't need to announce their evolution because it's already written all over how you live, how you speak, and how you carry yourself. You'll know you're growing when your silence speaks louder than your explanations. When your peace becomes louder than your anxiety. When the things that used to trigger you now teach you. And when the people you used to chase now chase clarity, because you've made it so clear who you are and where you're going. So if you're sitting there wondering if it's time to change, here's your sign. Don't wait for rock bottom. Don't wait for permission. You're allowed to outgrow what once felt like home. You're allowed to shift, to stretch, to let go of labels that no longer define you. Growth isn't betrayal, it's truth. And when your growth is rooted in your values, not your fears, it becomes something no one can take from you. You don't grow to be loved. You grow because you already love yourself enough to move forward. And that's what makes you unforgettable, not the version of you that stayed the same to fit in, but the version of you that kept becoming. no matter who didn't get it. Keep becoming. Keep growing. Keep stepping into the fullness of who you are meant to be. There's a quiet power that comes alive when you finally realize you deserve more. Not in a loud, boastful way, but in that calm, steady presence that says, I'm not settling anymore. It's like a switch flips. Suddenly the old patterns, the one-sided relationships, the draining conversations, the tolerating, the pretending stop. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. Once you realize your worth, the begging stops, the chasing stops. You no longer seek scraps of love or attention. You hold out for what's real. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "Never value anything as profitable to yourself which shall compel you to break your promise, to lose your self-respect, or to hate any man." Translation, if you have to betray yourself to keep someone, it's already too expensive. The people who understand this, the ones who walk away without burning bridges, are the ones who have truly learned how to protect their peace. Most people aren't afraid of losing someone who needs them. They're afraid of losing someone who doesn't need them. There's a difference. When you know what lifts your energy and what drains it, you stop making decisions out of loneliness. You start making decisions from clarity. And that is rare. That is magnetic. Jung said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But once you do, something incredible happens. You stop needing others to accept you. You stop performing for love. And you start showing up for yourself. That kind of energy, that kind of intentionality, people feel it. More importantly, you feel it. You walk differently. You choose better. You no longer need to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. And that's what changes everything. Being intense without apology is another aspect of living authentically. There's an unspoken rule that many of us have been taught. Don't feel too much. Don't speak too passionately. Don't care too deeply. Just be chill, be easy, be low maintenance. But let's tell the truth. None of that creates real connection. All it does is create distance, because it turns you into a muted version of yourself. If you've ever been told you're too much, too emotional, too sensitive, too intense, I want you to hear this loud and clear. That's not a flaw. That's a gift. You feel deeply because you care. You express intensely because you're alive. You're not too much. You're just not easy to ignore. Jung believed that the emotional world isn't something to repress. It's something to integrate. He said, there's no coming to consciousness without pain. That intensity you feel, the one you sometimes wish would go away, it's not there to break you. It's there to wake you up. It's the part of you that won't let life stay surface level. Yes, it can make others uncomfortable, but that discomfort says more about their limitations than it does about your emotional intelligence. Let's talk about emotional intelligence for a second. Feeling deeply is not weakness, it's wisdom. Aristotle spoke of the virtue of moderation, but he didn't mean suppressing your nature. He meant mastering it. It's about feeling without drowning, loving without losing yourself. That's the difference between chaos and courage. And make no mistake, your ability to feel deeply is courageous. Because in a world where most people numb out, you're still showing up with your heart wide open. People may call you too much because intensity can't be controlled. It demands presence. It asks questions. It feels everything. And that level of honesty scares people who are hiding behind masks. Your passion makes them question their apathy. Your tears force them to face their numbness. Your truth makes them uncomfortable with their lies. So instead of doing the work to meet you where you are, they label you as too intense, too emotional, too complicated. But that's not truth, that's projection. The Stoics, even the masters of self-discipline, never told us to deny our emotions. They told us to understand them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This includes your emotional life. You don't need to tone yourself down. You just need to direct your fire. Channel your passion. Let your emotions inform you, not rule you. That's strength. That's emotional maturity. And that's what sets you apart. So the next time someone tells you that you're too much, smile, look them in the eye and say, "Then go find less." You're not shrinking to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You're expanding into your full emotional power. And the people who are meant for you, they'll never ask you to shrink. They'll rise to meet you. They'll match your depth, and they'll celebrate your passion, not flinch from it. Because people who feel deeply love deeply, and people who love deeply, they change lives. So don't dim that light. Don't dilute your energy. Be all of you. Be bold. Be passionate. Be honest. That's how you leave your mark, not by being agreeable, but by being real. And the world will feel it. Let's take everything we've discussed so far and bring it together. The truth is, there's a quiet power that emerges the moment you decide you deserve more. Not in a boastful or loud way, but in a calm, steady presence that says, "I'm no longer settling." Once you come to this realization, something shifts within you. The old patterns, those one-sided relationships, draining conversations, tolerating, pretending, suddenly stop. And it's not because the world around you changes. It's because you have. You've come to a place where you no longer beg for validation or approval. Instead, you choose yourself. The moment you understand your own worth, the begging stops. The chasing stops. You no longer seek scraps of love or attention. Instead, you wait for what's real. And Epictetus' teaching perfectly captures this. Never value anything as profitable to yourself which shall compel you to break your promise, to lose your self-respect, or to hate any man. If you have to betray yourself to keep someone in your life, then the price is too high. The people who understand this lesson, the ones who walk away quietly without causing drama, are the ones who know that peace is sacred. They've learned how to protect their peace, and by doing so, they've also learned how to protect themselves from anything that drains them. They won't be manipulated. They won't be guilted into staying where their peace is being broken. They will choose to walk away with grace. Most people are afraid of losing someone who needs them, but they're not afraid of losing someone who doesn't need them. That's a significant difference. When you know what lifts your energy and what drains it, you stop making decisions based on loneliness. Instead, you start making decisions based on clarity. And that clarity is magnetic. People can sense it. They feel it. The people who are meant for you won't need convincing. They will see your energy. They will feel your presence, and they'll recognize something rare. You won't have to prove your worth anymore. They'll just know. Jung famously said that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But once you do, you stop needing anyone else's permission to feel worthy. You no longer perform for love. You stop asking for validation. You show up for yourself, and in that process, you stop being afraid of what others think. You don't need their approval to feel whole. And that's when the real transformation happens. When you no longer perform for love, people stop seeing a version of you that's polished and perfect. They start seeing you, the real you, and they will recognize you for who you are, flaws and all. This kind of energy is transformational. People feel it in your presence. More importantly, you feel it. You walk differently. You choose differently. You no longer need anyone to choose you because you've already chosen yourself. That is the ultimate freedom. Now let's talk about intensity, the energy that some people might consider too much. We've all been told, don't feel too much. We've been told to keep things light, easy, and nonchalant. But here's the truth. None of that creates real connection. All it does is keep you disconnected from who you truly are. When you mute yourself to fit in, you lose your ability to truly connect. Real connection is not built on pretending. It's built on showing up, fully expressing yourself authentically, and being willing to give all of who you are, even if it's too much for some people. Jung wrote that emotional depth isn't something to repress, it's something to integrate. There's no coming to consciousness without pain. The intensity you feel, the deep emotions that make you feel alive, that's not something to apologize for. It's not there to break you. It's there to wake you up. When you embrace this intensity, you stop trying to make yourself small for others. You realize that your ability to feel deeply is courageous. It's what makes you alive. It's what helps you build the real connections that will change your life. People may label you too emotional or too intense. But that's not truth. That's projection. The Stoics taught that emotions are not meant to be denied. They are meant to be understood. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That includes your emotional life. You don't need to tone yourself down. You need to direct your emotions. Channel your intensity. Let your passion inform you, not control you. That's true emotional maturity, and it's what sets you apart from everyone else. So the next time someone tells you you're too much, smile. Look them in the eye and say, then go find less. Because you're not shrinking to fit in. You're expanding into your full emotional power, and the people who are meant for you will rise to meet you. They'll match your depth. They'll celebrate your passion. And those who can't handle it, they'll quietly fall away. Let them. You weren't meant to fit into anyone else's mold. You were meant to be fully, unapologetically yourself. And that's the power that makes you unforgettable. It's not about being the loudest or most agreeable. It's not about performing. It's about being real, being whole, and never apologizing for it. This all comes down to understanding one fundamental truth. You don't need anyone else's permission to be powerful. Real power comes from knowing your worth, owning your truth, and standing in your authenticity, no matter who else is around. You don't need validation. You don't need approval. You just need to know that you are whole as you are right now. And when you fully embrace that truth, you'll never have to chase anyone or anything again. People will be drawn to you, not because you're perfect, but because you are real. You'll walk into rooms, and your energy will speak louder than your words. Your authenticity will shine through. And the people who are meant to be in your life will see that. The others, they'll fall away without any effort on your part. And in the end, that's what makes you unforgettable. So, as you continue on this journey, remember this. You're not here to shrink for anyone. You're not here to be someone's watered-down version. You are here to show up fully as yourself. And when you do, you become impossible to forget. Keep becoming, keep growing, and keep shining in all your imperfect glory. The world needs you real, raw, and unforgettable.